Has eSports ruined gaming? That's what we're going to look at today. I'm actually quite interested in this video. I've been a long time fan of League of Legends, and I watched League of Legends. And even though I know there was esports before League of Legends, however, I've watched League of Legends really transform the field and really make esports kind of what it is today. Not on their own. I know there's going to be tons of people like, oh, CSGO. I know. I'm just saying they kind of took it to the next level. All right? So settle the
Daddy, chill.
But anyways, with esports on the rise, I've kind of personally, I've kind of thought to myself, like, man, how competitive gaming's getting. Like, gaming was always about the fun. And I forget who it was the other day, was talking about going back and playing old video games and how it made them fall back in love with gaming. Now, I'm sure there's some bit of nostalgia there. I get it. But there was a lot of comments on that video post of even younger people that went back and had never played older games and played them, and were blown away at just how much fun they were. Doesn't mean, obviously graphics are better, things are better today overall in the gaming world in terms of that kind of stuff, but it's really become, in a lot of games, about the competitiveness, which, some people love, and rightfully so. It's cool, but let's get into the video and see what it's about, and then I can give my opinion off of there.
Imagine this for a second.
All right, I'm imagining
an arena
it.
full of excited fans waiting to watch their favorite video game.
Okay.
This hyper-competitive, high-octane electronic sport these guys are playing isn't doing too hot right now. It's been dominated by one incredibly powerful
Hey, this is League of Legends
strategy, and the game devolves into long and boring matches with no variation. The commentators, passionate and desperate to keep the game alive, are trying to find any breadcrumb of excitement that they can, but they know that it's a futile effort. As the tournament goes on, people start to leave the arena, sponsors lose faith in the game, and eventually, the developer's baby and work of passion has been forced to shut down. This scenario is a game developer's absolute worst nightmare.
I could see how that'd be a problem. Is that what happened with League? I'm assuming this is League because it's 5 versus 5 and it kind of looks like League. But is that what, did they change the game to make it more exciting? I didn't know.
Especially in an era where the expectation is
I'm gonna
that
be
every
interested in
new
this.
multiplayer game release eventually turns into a hyper-competitive esport. But I feel like
That's
that
what I was just saying.
expectation has clouded the judgment of not just a wide part of the gaming community, but even the developers of these games themselves. And I can't help but feel like both sides are just missing the point. Just because a game comes out with a multiplayer mode in it doesn't mean it has what it takes to be a competitive game. Otherwise, we'd be seeing $1 million Mario Kart tournaments crop up everywhere. So what sets Mario Kart apart
What the hell is this snowman?
from, say, League of Legends or Street Fighter? And what makes a good esport? Well, to answer that question, I'll go through the reasons people seem to think are true, but really aren't.
Number 1, developer support.
There's a common notion that rampant dev support is needed for a game to be successful in a tournament setting. That without millions of dollars from the developers and Coca-Cola sponsorships at every event, then your game is just going to die. In reality though, all the developer support can really do is artificially make the game seem like it's alive, when it very likely would be abandoned if there wasn't any monetary incentive to play competitively. Games like Fortnite had to learn this the hard way, because although the Fortnite World Cup had the biggest prize pool in esports history and a massive arena full of rabid children, it still couldn't escape the fact that the game itself doesn't make for a good viewing experience, because all you see is a battle of who gets the luckiest with their weapon drops and which player can build a tower the fastest instead of actually shooting the other guy. All you have to do to disprove this is look at the numerous examples where games have had large and passionate communities with little to no dev support, such as the Smash community and pretty much the entire early FGC. These games were, or still are, alive and kicking, with only the passion of a few players and grassroots crowdfunding efforts.
I don't know much about Smash Brothers, I know they're huge games, and I know the communities behind them are insane. They love these games. I just never got into them. I didn't stay Nintendo very long. I went Sega Genesis to Sega Dreamcast, unfortunately. And then I stopped until Xbox. So I missed a lot of Nintendo outside of the original Nintendo and Super Nintendo. I'm not real familiar with those games or the communities, but I know they're crazy.
To keep tournaments running. Smash especially shows this fully, considering Nintendo has tried to kill its competitive scene in every way imaginable since its inception. Some people are going to say that fighting game tournaments have had full developer support and big sponsorships for about a decade now, So I can't use them as an example because they're using the same things to grow themselves that I say don't grow esports. And although that is true, the devs wouldn't have done much to grow the FGC in the first place if it hadn't had that backbone of passionate grassroots support from the 90s and 2000s. Dev support simply can't prop up a bad esport. And similarly,
That's true. I mean, that's 100%. Like, they added it after. I mean, of course, if there's a strong community and if it naturally kind of becomes a game that is like hyper competitive or whatever, and that makes for good viewing as an esport, something like Smash Brothers where it's constant action, then yes, of course, sponsors are going to follow suit as those events and stuff start happening. You know, that's not the same thing as completely hiring a huge dev team to try to make a game be more enjoyable to watch. That's what I'm understanding from this. Maybe I'm not understanding it right. I don't know. Anybody in the chat? Anybody comments? Let me know.
Content to a game through patches isn't going to do that either. Frequent battle passes, skins, new...
I have a love and hate relationship with all of this stuff. I mean, I love skins and stuff. Battle passes, not so much. Not so much. I think they're stupid. Like, just sell the skins and stuff, man. Like, why do we gotta have skins and battle passes? And just sell the skins that are in the battle pass on the store, man.
New maps, weapons, and characters are a common thing to see in modern games, and they admittedly can be a great way to keep adding to a great base game,
Sure, 100%.
refining the experience to its absolute best. But they are only at their most effective if there aren't any other glaring issues outside of the game's content. It doesn't matter how many skins and characters Multiverses adds, it's not going to fix the server connectivity issues and the lack of modes other than online versus. And you can see the results of that in its dramatic drop in players since release. If you want a modern
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a sucky game's gonna suck. That's what this guy's basically saying. A game that sucks is gonna suck, whether they add in skins or whatever. Like, yeah, kind of.
game, for an example,
Duh.
take CS:GO, a game that has had periods
Not
of
anything
years
towards
go
the guy,
by
but I'm
with
just saying
little
if you
to
don't
no
get what he's
significant
saying,
additions to content, at least until Valorant came out.
You
And
know?
it is still one of the biggest and most beloved esports of all time.
Yeah, that's because it's fun, man. Like, you just like, they're running around constantly in battle. It's not these, like, most of the maps are tight, small. You know, you're not searching for people like in Fortnite where you could be running around looking for people for 5 minutes, people hiding in. It's fun, man. I don't know. It's like, and I mean, admittedly, I was a CS:GO player, not competitively at all because I suck at FPSs, but like, I enjoyed the CS:GO. It was a fun game, man. Like, and of course it would make for a great esport. In my
Having
opinion.
too little content makes a game feel shallow and unfinished, sure, but adding too much content can make a game feel bloated or even negatively impact the game experience if the new map or weapon favors a degenerate strategy.
See, I think this is what's happening with League of Legends as well, is that it's just getting to the point where it's getting too big. There's, like, when new players come in to join the game, to learn the game, there's so many characters that each have 4 different spells. Some of them have 7 different spells because they're all makes them all their other spells change to something else. So, like, you got to learn all these things, all these items, all the, like, it's a very hard game for a new person to get into, to be honest. Me and my friend Tony were talking about this the other day. Like, it's more and more like crazy, like they gotta think of new crazy skills and ultimates, and the problem is it just gets so crazy, you know, that it just becomes too much, in my opinion. Like, it's just too big. Like, eventually people don't even know what's happening. They don't even know what all the characters in the game, like, they're watching an esports game and they don't even know what half of the characters' moves are because there's just so many to remember.
Smash 4 was a perfectly fine game that received constant updates including new stages and characters, and these characters added a lot to the game. However, the final DLC character, Bayonetta, ended up ruining the game so badly that Nintendo shipped out an emergency last-minute patch to fix her, which didn't end up doing much, so after they abandoned the game, it turned into such a toxic experience that 2 15-year-olds decided to have a standoff in EVO Grand Finals.
Bro, what is going on? What is this?
I don't know. I was stalling for time.
And I know what you're thinking. Ardrid, if there's something degen in a game, they should just nerf it.
So some people are so simple-minded, man. I'm sorry, but I'm not. Like, just nerfing or buffing does not always fix an issue. Sometimes if, like, the kit itself is broken, or like they got to change the whole fucking thing, which I guess could be considered a nerf. But
And I fully agree, but let's focus on that point a little more. Because all of these big company sponsorships and content altering patches pale in comparison to the most important thing that everyone says a good esport
What's
must
that, man?
have. The elusive and ever-desired concept of balance. It's the idea that as many options in the game should be viable at the highest levels of play, and through that, the metagame will be healthy and
Yeah, see, and this also hurts. I've said this, even me and my friend Tony, and I'll keep mentioning Tony because we're always talking about league and stuff. I've mentioned this before to him, and I think he disagrees to an extent. I can't remember exactly his 100% his stance on it, but this is where I think esports sometimes really does ruin gaming. I think it can also help, but the problem is they build like League of Legends, their focus is so much on esports and making sure that this balance exists between all the players on a high level. But they focus on like providing like a balance on all these high level players, that the problem is everybody that plays League of Legends, like bronze players, silver players, I would even argue gold and platinum players, probably don't know very much about the game or not enough to really take advantage of necessarily all of those things that might make them balance. So you end up getting a lot of characters that just become kind of unbalanced, in my opinion. You know, they can't stand on their own 2 feet in the lower ranks or whatever. I don't know, but that's just my opinion.
And intriguing for the players, and a fascinating experience to watch for the viewers at home. Balancing a game is always tough, and there's a ton of different philosophies you can use to accomplish it. But the one that has propped up over the last few years is the idea of perfect balance, that everything should be as equal as possible for a game to be any fun competitively. But again, if you look at the history, you'll see way too many examples of beloved games that have had varying levels of balance. Smash Bros. Melee, Tekken Tag Tournament 1, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. All of these games are considered to be some of the greatest competitive games in their genre, yet have complete...
Why is it that fighting games are the ones that are so popular competitively? I guess because it's just 24/7 action.
Rosters where only a small fraction of the characters available to you are viable in tournament play. Okay, at this point, some of you might be thinking something like...
Yeah, like, and that's the thing, man. Like, I mean, what he just said there, I've never personally thought of that. But like, exactly, if all of the characters aren't viable in competitive play in League of Legends, who cares? Again, there's so many characters. Why can't there be characters that just are, you know, basically for fun and they're never going to be viable in high level tournament play?
This guy is such a dumbass. He's making it seem like none of these things matter with anecdotal examples of games that came out 20 years ago that didn't have any of those things. These games didn't have the same standards or lofty expectations that we have now, nor did they have the same level of options that we do now. Players at the time probably just stuck with their game despite being unbalanced or bloated or whatever, right?
Wrong. Wait. No! Allow me to disprove that statement with another anecdotal example. The player-based transition from Tekken Tag Tournament 1 to Tekken 4, or the attempted transition, I should say. Let's set the scene. Tekken Tag 1 was considered to be the absolute gold standard of the Tekken series. The pro players loved
Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with the Tekken series either.
it, and in just a little
Again, PlayStation wasn't my jam. I apparently I always chose the console that I guess was second. You know, that kind of explains my life. I'm an Android user versus an iOS user.
over a year, they would be able to play the game's eagerly anticipated sequel, Tekken 4. They waited until the game's release month in the arcades of July 2001, and when they got their hands on it, they hated it. It was slow and weird, and the stages had walls and stuff now, although in hindsight they were really cool. And to make matters worse, it had an equally as unbalanced roster as Tag 1, with new character Steve and especially returning fighter Jin being incredibly oppressive. Tekken 4 matches quickly devolved into Jin versus Jin matches, and the game was as divisive as it could have possibly been. Based on this guy's assumption earlier, you'd think that these players would stick with Tekken 4 as this was 2001 and there weren't as many options or as high expectations as we have now for games. Well, actually, the exact opposite happened. After a while of trying to make Tekken 4 work, many Tekken players simply either went back to the horribly unbalanced Tekken Tag 1 or transitioned to other fighting games. Many decided to switch to Namco's other 3D fighter series that had just released a new entry, Soul Calibur 2, a game where the entire roster seemed to be
remember
the
Soul
same
Calibur
cheap.
2.
So why did they go back? Aren't Tekken Tag 1 and Soul Calibur 2 just as bad as Tekken 4 when it comes to cheap characters and strategies? What was the difference between these games that made people hate Tekken 4 so much yet adore Tag 1 and Soul Calibur 2? Well, to answer that question, I think it's finally time to get into the
There we
actual
go.
things
This is what
that
I want to hear.
create
What he thinks
great and
actually makes a good
successful
esport.
1. The game needs to be easy to
I will say, man, so far, I mean, I think I think his points are all valid. I agree with most of what he's saying. That's why I don't feel like I'm adding a lot to this, because number one, a lot of these games I don't really know and I'm not really familiar with. Esports, my first kind of foray into esports, honestly, was CSGO. And then, and that was only a little bit. And then it really wasn't until League of Legends that I really got into esports. So I'm gonna be honest, I'm kind of ignorant when it comes to esports and stuff. But so far, I mean, I agree with pretty much everything he's saying. It makes sense. I mean, this right here, he hasn't even said it yet, but this first one, since I have a pause here, that's exactly what, like I was saying about League. Like, it just gets to the point where, like, anybody that's new to the esport world or trying to watch League of Legends, like, and they don't know the game, they're gonna have no idea what's going on, man.
Understand and watch. It doesn't necessarily have to be fast paced, but what it does have to be is something that even someone who has never even seen the game before can look at and understand just from a glance. The game's objectives, important elements such as health and damage, and even strategies need to be as easy to understand as possible. As an easy to understand game is going to have a much simpler time bringing in new players than a visual clusterfuck like Fortnite's Pro Scene. Overwatch has consistently run into this problem with its esports circuit too, where there are just so many particle effects and stuff happening on screen with no downtime whatsoever that it's overwhelming for people who don't understand the game inside and out.
Okay, so this is a little bit different than what I thought, because they're saying, it can be too much action. I was thinking that's why fighting games did so well, is because the more action, the better. But I guess it's more action, but simple action.
2.
Okay, I've never thought of it like that.
Passionate community and tournament organizers. I'm not talking about some random bog standard event organizer. I'm talking about someone from the community of their game that's passionate and hardworking.
True.
Usually someone who was a diehard player themselves who transitioned into TOing. Esports, for the most part, is not a very profitable industry. So to put on the greatest events on a frequent basis, you need people who are willing to lose money on running tournaments simply for the love of the game. It's what built the early days of Counter-Strike, the FGC, and pretty much every esport that stood the test of time today. If your game's competitive scene can't at some point sustain itself on passion alone, then it has little hope of succeeding in a wider context. And 3, this one is the most important one. The game's mechanics need to be as perfectly balanced as possible. Some of you are going to say that I'm contradicting myself here, as I literally just said that balance wasn't important, but let's make a key distinction here. All
Perfect
of
balance.
the examples I showed of unbalanced games gaining esports success were unbalanced in their rosters, their weapons, their specific elements in which you interact with the game mechanics. The reason that people preferred Tekken Tag 1 to Tekken 4, despite both games having horribly unbalanced rosters, was because Tekken Tag 1's core game mechanics were simply much more balanced than Tekken 4's. Even if Steve and Jin were nerfed into oblivion in Tekken 4, the game would have died anyway because of its broken wall system and stupidly easy jab pressure out of one-frame sidewalks. It wouldn't matter if Bayonetta was never added into Smash 4, because the game's over-reliance on shielding as an approach option and the strength of grabs would have eventually killed it anyway. And no matter how many balance patches and new heroes they added to Overwatch 1, it didn't stop the massive amount of stuns and the 2-tank meta from scaring people away. And after those things were fixed in Overwatch 2, you can easily see just how much larger and passionate the community has gotten over that game. Unless it's an extreme case, when a character or weapon is overpowered,
unfortunately, I don't know a ton about Overwatch either.
Avoid them by using different characters or weapons. Low tier heroes are a thing in every game, but when the core gameplay mechanics heavily
I feel like this video I'm learning with
style,
you guys.
What are they going to do? Avoid the mechanics? Avoiding the game's mechanics is basically the same thing as not playing the game at all. So from that perspective, it's obvious just how important a balanced core gameplay loop is. In that sense, the metrics for what make a good esport are very similar to what makes a good game in general. Nobody wants to play a platformer where running and jumping are slow after all. But the problem is, in the pursuit of this esports dream and eternal relevancy, a lot of developers seem to...
Halo Infinite, ugh. Marvel Avengers. Was Marvel Avengers good or bad? I didn't play it. Multiverse, I played that.
Lose sight of that fact. Think about the biggest live service games
I was
in the
excited
world
for that
right
game.
now. League of Legends, Valorant, Apex Legends. All of these games seem to be in good states now, but where will they be in 20 years? Will they even be around in 20 years? If their level of success stays the same, then probably, but I guarantee you the obsession that these games' devs have with constant content updates and frequent balance patches will mean that the Apex of today will look nothing like the Apex of 2042. And what if these changes actually made the game worse rather than better? What will you do then? Play an older version of the game? This isn't Minecraft version swapping. These games require you to be online in order to play them. So it's ride or die with the current version until the devs fix it. And if
I mean, I think that, if they get to that point, I think it's just like everything, just like we was talking about earlier, people just go to a different game eventually.
The game
there'll be somebody to fill that space.
servers get shut down, then tough luck. You are never playing this game again.
Man, that's crazy though to think about that. There might be a day I'll never be able to hop on League of Legends again.
When talking about game preservation, everyone mentions the old classics that require aging hardware to run. But what about the hundreds of live service games that require massive servers to run and have had so many content patches that the version of the game you played as a kid may not even be available anymore? I don't think that esports itself has ruined gaming. Far from it. I love esports.
No, it's a lot. It's not definitely it's not just esports. Because esports is also hella fun. At times it's a combination of where again, I just think gaming has gotten away from for fun too much. Again, and I'm not even saying things like skins and battle passes, even though I personally hate battle passes, cosmetics in general. I don't think things like that necessarily ruin games. In fact, I think even they can enhance games. However, I just think it's gotten to the point where it's just too much. It's like, gotta earn money from skins, gotta earn money from battle passes, gotta earn money from esports, gotta earn money for and so the whole game just becomes about earning money, and the focus gets so hard on that then they forget the game needs to be fun. And if you worry about that first and you got a ton of people playing your game, you're going to make some money. Again, I'm not against any of those things, except for maybe battle passes. Add cosmetics in. That's cool. I think you should still include some cosmetics for free, just because why not? Every game, you used to get skins all the time in games you would unlock. Now you got to buy them all. Make some for free, but Jesus, I don't care. Make cosmetics. Doesn't matter. But it's all of those things combined. It's just there's too much. There's too much.
But the mentality and glorification of esports that it puts the community and devs in.
And now you got NFTs coming to get, which I'm all for NFTs, but again, it's right now it's just all cash grabs. Everybody that's doing it, they're doing it for a cash grab.
Into definitely has.
The text there.
It isn't because
people
ranked
are just
has caused tryhards to pop up everywhere and I can't 360 no-scope noobs anymore like back in the good old Modern Warfare 2 days, but because game devs all over the world look at the prestige and deep competitive history of games like League of Legends and Street Fighter, and they lust for it so hard that they fail to see the mountain that they had to climb to reach that peak. And the true reasons why people play those games is that they are amazing, mechanically well-balanced experiences that allow for deep and engrossing gameplay. It's not million-dollar prize pools and frequent content updates. And the furious chase of this ideal is simply not smart for most games that aren't really made for esports. A competitive scene has to be gradually built by die-hard fans out of true passion for the game. And just like how you can lead a horse to water and you can't make it drink, you simply can't force a game to be an esport. And as long as the game is trying to do that, more and more games will fail to reach their true potential.
That kind of looked fun. All right, so there you have it. That's why esports is ruining gaming. Again, I didn't feel like I had a lot to add to that video. We kind of just went through that one pretty quick. I don't know a ton about esports. Like I said, I got into CSGO for a while. I had a friend that was really into it, and that's kind of what started getting me into it. Then I got into League of Legends esports. I still watch League of Legends esports sometimes. But honestly, I prefer just watching a live stream of League of Legends over the actual events of League of Legends for whatever reason. I don't really know the answer to that. I do think esports can ruin gaming. I don't know that it has ruined gaming. I just think altogether with everything, with this, with esports, with this kind of whole gaming becoming a business thing. And even outside of the companies, but streamers nowadays, myself included, content creators, streamers, gaming has become a industry, a business. I think it's lost some stuff along the way. And I don't know how we get that back. I don't know how the gaming community gets that back. I don't know if we can get that back. I don't know if we actually want that back. I don't know. I guess I haven't put enough thought into it, but it's definitely an interesting time in the gaming field. And I am excited to see where it goes and what evolves out of it. I will say VR content, Oculus Quest 2, it reminds me of the early days of gaming. There's bugs, but the community, man, the people you find in VR chat and in multiplayer games and stuff, it's amazing, the community there. I definitely think some things need to change in gaming, and I think everybody needs to stop trying to make the next fucking Legends or the next Fortnite. All right. If you guys like this video, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit the subscribe button, the red one, and leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think esports is ruining gaming? Do you think esports has made gaming better? What do you think? Let me know. All right, until next time, peace out, everybody. Later, nerds.